So the floor is now open to the many members of the public who are here. You just come up to the chair there at that table and just introduce yourself and give your address.
Good evening.
Good evening. You may have two introductions.
This is Henry, and I think some of you know Henry. He came from DAC November 2010, and he was a disabled little guy and nobody wanted him, but DAC made sure he got an operation, so he was good to go. So I got him, and it was the best thing I ever did. But getting to the point of this article in the newspaper this morning, sorry. I'm not used to this. I was appalled at the actions taken by Officer Ed Thomas at the Woodbridge Animal Control. He took a well-greased wheel and upset the whole apple cart, upset our sweet, dear little animals, upset the residents and friends of DAC by shipping them off to another location. This action was taken in a very unorthodox manner. The situation these animals are now in is unhealthy and unsafe. We want these animals to go back to where they rightfully belong. They were safe and content at DAC. Officers Neiman and Lombardi have gone to exceptional measures to ensure their safety of all the animals, and I don't think any reprisals should be taken against them for all their sincere and heartfelt efforts. And that's all I have to say.
May I have your name and address?
Lynn Donato, 23 Metler Street, Woodbridge. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay.
First Selectmen, hi, my name is Tom Collison. I visited the property today that the animals were brought to, and was a little shocked and disturbed by the owner, who threw me off the property right away. I'm not sure how Officer Thomas was able to pull this off and why it was done, but it was deplorable. The conditions that the animals are in now is deplorable, and as a citizen and taxpayer, I want something done about it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Collison.
Can you spell that?
C-O-A-S-S-I.
S-S-U. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Laura Torrance, 17 Burning Court in Woodbridge. I've been involved with the animal shelter as long as I've lived in Woodbridge, for 15 years, and have been very impressed by the dedication and concern of both the animal control officers, and I'm confused as to why and what role the police department actually plays in this whole thing. I think that having been interested in adopting further animals, I've adopted a rooster and 2 chickens in the last couple of months, and went down there, just happened to be on Tuesday morning when all the animals were being taken away without Karen's. They claim that she knew that they were being taken, but I'm wondering why she wasn't able to call any of the people that were interested, and how the people that actually have the animals now were qualified and looked into, and what the paperwork. I'd like to be able to see the paperwork where they signed in and were found qualified to take all these pets, 20 odd pets, and can care for them and give them medical care and so forth. The pig in particular, which I also own a pig and visited the pig on many occasions, and decided not to try and adopt him, but there was someone else who was very interested, wasn't given the opportunity because this was all done sort of cloak and dagger. I'm upset as a resident here. I think that the pig and all the other animals were a nice draw. I realize it's not a petting zoo, but on the other hand, I'm wondering why, if it was at no cost to any of us, it was done without a timetable and a calendar to say that we could have had the opportunity. I had 2 to 4 chickens that I was interested in. I don't know why these people would want chickens that don't lay eggs. I, on the other hand, wanted them just because I wanted more pets. And I don't know why the animal control people didn't have the last word in this adoption. I'm wondering how the officer was qualified to make this decision and how these people were chosen. In the newspaper, which I already knew, it said that they were approached by the police department, and I find that peculiar because the police officer said to me yesterday that if I needed to adopt chickens or any other farm animals, he would be available to help me. In my wildest dreams, I would never consider calling the police to ask them where I could get chickens or a pig or any of those things. It seems preposterous to me. So why are they so involved, and who has the last word in the adoption? I'm assuming that Karen, as the head of our department, who's done a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned, doesn't have the last word. Why she can't inspect the people that are taking these animals. A pig is an expensive venture to take on. And were these people approved? Was their vet called? And so forth. And I think that it's very disappointing to people of the town that we've really been proud that we have an animal shelter that takes on farm animals and things like that. We're a rural community. And why the police are involved is beyond me. And I'm wondering if, all of you would look into it and find out what sort of paperwork was done, because when I adopted a rooster and 2 chickens, I filled out 2 forms, and they knew me, and I still filled out the forms. And were these people held responsible for veterinary care and so forth? A pig is a very intelligent animal that will live 20 years if well taken care of. Is he being adopted to be slaughtered? Is he being adopted as a pet? There were many people that I know, just having visited the shelter in the last few months because I was concerned about the pig, that come to see the pig. What was the reason that he was taken so abruptly? And I'm hoping you can all look into it and question the police department. What is their interest and what was the reason that this happened? So when Karen was on her day off, which she didn't tell me, but I knew that Paul had gone home sick that day. The whole thing is upsetting to all the people that love animals in Woodbridge and Bethany and Derby. I don't understand it, and I'm hoping that you guys can come up with some answers as to why this happened the way it did, and where's the paperwork, because I asked to see the paperwork and there didn't seem to be any. And I'm hoping that we can return the pig and he could go to me or a lot of other rescue groups that were interested in him. We didn't know there was a timetable that he had to go. Perhaps we need to set up a precedent that 90 days or 30 days or 60 days, the animals can only stay for a certain time and they have to go. But why they would just go because a police officer feels that it's time for them to go seems crazy to me. And I hope that we can get to the bottom of this because it doesn't seem right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Lipson, 35 Brookwood Drive, Woodbridge. I was trying to get a little bit of information from the memo that I obtained from Town Hall today, and specifically order 3.254.M. I have some information that was handed out when the police took over the responsibilities for animal control last year, and for some reason that's not in it. The notes that I have started 3.26. So my first question would be...
You're referring to this memo, Cheryl, of January 8th,
that is
2013?
correct. Yesterday.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the members of the Board of Selectmen will have a copy of that. Okay.
And thanks to Jerry for giving that to me earlier today. What I wanted to know was, when was this initial order, this 3.25, when was that put in place? And who had it put in place? And did it go before any board? Who voted on it? Did the ACOs have any knowledge of this? Do they have a copy of all of this paperwork? I think since the changeover from the DAF board to the police in terms of the point of reference for the officers, I don't even know if there has been a new listing as to what their duties entail, so what they can and cannot do. And when you read this very lovely memo that came out, I guess you can take issue and say, fine, what does as soon as practical mean? Or what does temporary mean? If you're talking about deer that were there at one time, or some of the other animals, even the pig or some of the chickens, some of these animals have been hand raised. I know the deer in particular. And if those were put into an open wildlife situation, some of these animals would walk directly up to you, which means the hunters out there wouldn't even have to load their guns. I don't know anything about the property that the animals were brought to, but I think it would have been the right thing to do to, one, make the officers aware of the location they were being taken to, giving them perhaps even a tour so they felt comfortable. They have been nurturing these animals. And the other thing being, again, as the lady before me said, where is the paperwork that should have been completed on this? Anytime somebody comes in to adopt at the shelter, if I'm not mistaken, you have to fill out paperwork, you get a call, you have to be interviewed to make sure that there's a correct match. And I don't think that was done this time. If the officer is here and would like to make a comment, that would be great. But from what I've seen in terms of just the article, that's all I'm aware of. Thanks so much.
Okay. Karen supplied the Board of Selectmen with an adoption application. That I guess that's what you're referring to. Okay.
An adoption agreement, which relieves the town of liability for animals that have been housed at the shelter. We have none of it for anyone.
Okay. Any other? Okay.
My name's Leanne Russ, 14 Cornfield Lane in Woodbridge. I'm going to try not to get emotional as I've been very attached to this pig. I have seen the pig since they very first got him in. My kids have gone down to the shelter to visit. I know a ton of people that take their kids there, and I even have a friend who ended up adopting a cat just because they're drawn there because of the pig, because of the chickens, because of all of the animals. It's been also an attraction that has promoted adoptions and awareness for the shelter. Having said that, I did go to the property that Parker was at. The woman was upset because she never told us to leave the property. Instead, she said that she never wanted the pig and that she was approached to go ahead and take on the pig and the animals that had been at the shelter too long. So, having said that, why wasn't somebody who was interested in the pig given the opportunity then? Like, why would you just go outside and go find somebody on your own? It's just that I've seen District Animal Control do the most wonderful job with their pets and really rehabilitate them. They've been great in this community, extremely helpful, and I just can't fathom how this happened because, frankly, what I saw today, they were better off at the shelter.
Yeah.
The quarters were absolutely so that's all I have to say.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Jansen. I live on Hupper Road in Bethany. I'm a taxpayer. I'm also an employee in a business on Lunar Drive. I work for New Haven Radiology. We staff 19 people. And out of the people that were available there today, I did have a petition signed of the people that enjoy taking the walk through that area and seeing the animals. We feed them. We've gotten close to them ourselves. And it's even to the point where our boss is the president, vice president of our company, have gotten away from the stress of the business to take a walk and found it very enjoyable to get away from things to see this. It's a refuge. It's not only a refuge for these animals who are treated so well there. I have animals myself, and I love to see the animals. They're happy. They're happy to see us. Parker is. I've never realized a pig can be so emotional as when he sees us coming. He eats right out of my hand, and it is a wonderful thing. I have to say that as a Bethany resident, when I started working there 3 years ago, and we found this place, it was a godsend. And my opinion was, what a class act this town is, to provide such a wonderful animal control center with wonderful caring people that I've never seen animals treated better. And it's just probably the best thing that this town has to offer, to be honest with you, that I have seen. And I'm very, proud as a Bethany resident that it is also controlling, our situation as well, and that my taxes are going there. And I mean, we all feel the same way that, we would even contribute, and we have offered, and we have, made funds available. We would do that to keep these animals supplied and fed and cared for in the manner in which they have been right along. I think you should be proud of your workers there at the Animal Control Center and not be, bucking them, because I think you're very fortunate to have such caring workers, working with animals and caring in this world of, apathy and uncaring and, chaos. It's just wonderful to see that kind of caring, and you should be very proud.
We are. We know they do a good job. There's no question about that. Karen and Paul, and there's another Karen, I believe.
Right. And that the whole staff is wonderful, and they keep that place in tip-top shape. They keep those animals happy, and it's a wonderful place. I've seen handicapped kids come there and see these animals, and a co-worker of mine who walks with me has a handicapped child, and she thinks it's wonderful. These kids think it's great. I think what you have is great there, and I think my question is, I don't know if you want to change it. But I mean, if there was some kind of reason, but as far as I could see, the animals are treated well. The workers are very caring, and it's made a wonderful place for all of us to take our little strolls and visit. And I just, unless there is some tremendous detriment, I don't see the reasoning for it. I think it makes everyone happy, and right now we need a little happiness in this world. There's too much sadness. Don't make it more sad than it already is. Leave these people to have and care for these animals, and these animals love to see us come. Just try to look beyond the rules. That's all. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments from the?
Good evening. My name is Kim McClure Brenton. I'm a Bethany resident, 168 Sperry Road. I'm also the owner of Country Companions Veterinary Services, one of the veterinary hospitals that works with the ACOs. I've spent a lot of time working with these two ACOs, on the clock for them, off the clock for them. I've worked on a number of capture cases for livestock, cows roaming on 69, where, no offense, the police department was useless. I have trusted these officers with my life in cases where we've had to deal with difficult cattle. Usually with livestock cases, they'll call me, we consult, my door is always open. They have my cell number, they know they can call me anytime. We've spent, like I said, holidays, weekends, evenings working together. I think it's completely unfair that animal control, they've built a good reputation, and it hasn't always been that way. I stopped working at the shelter when I felt like things fell apart a few years ago. I came back working with these two officers, and I think what's happened here with the police department has completely undermined, I'm hoping it doesn't, but I think it undermines the support and the respect that these animal control officers have built back for the shelter. And the reputation, nobody's ever going to be 100% happy. I know there's been some, there's always some issues where somebody's not happy. But for the most part, I think that the shelter has built a very good reputation with limited finances, definitely limited facilities. They didn't have hot water for how long. I'd like to know if proper procedures were followed in evaluating where these animals went. Was this farm vetted? And who are the references? And I think that's a freedom of information thing. I think that should be released to the public. I'd like to know.
Yes.
I also, who's determined that the animals were in improper conditions? I'm down there fairly regularly. I know that the officers pay for any of the livestock stuff out of their own pockets. We've volunteered things, donated things to help them with this. And I'd like to know what livestock expert or consultant was called in. And if there was an issue with the animals down there, was the state vet's office called and asked to investigate this or talk to them? I think it's very wrong how this was handled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Sherman, Litchfield Turnpike, Bethany, Connecticut. I own Lockett's Meadow. It's a farm animal rescue and sanctuary. I have several things. I'm going to try not to get emotional because this is a little tough one for me, and you'll know why in a minute. I'm from Milford. There has always been farm animals kept in Milford, and everybody loves it. I've worked with Rick George, the ACO there, on bringing goats in when they wanted goats at the facility. If they'd had animals that weren't working, I would take them back and I'd bring them to my facility because they have so many visitors that are attracted by these animals, and all of these visitors come in there and they play with the goats and they play with the hens, and then they often adopt animals because they go in and they see what's available. It works really well for them, and I know it's worked well here. So I'm confused as to why it is a problem having these animals there. And I'm going to try and stick to the script. Oh no, wait, and I do want to say this is a rural community. Woodbridge, Bethany, this is what we do here. Yeah. This is a really charming thing to have at the animal shelter. People feel like it's a part of their community because that's the community they come from.
That's why we moved here.
It's why I moved here. Why I have pigs and, all right. Months ago, I had spoken with Karen about adopting Parker. And I have pigs, I have a lot of animals. I've been doing it for years, and I am now specializing in pig rescue. I adore them. I have 7 at this point. I have the facility, I have the experience. I can do this very well. She had said they were hoping to work it out so that they could keep Parker there. And I understood that, and I said, that's great. If people love him and are giving him lots of attention, and they are, then keep him there. But if it doesn't work out, let me have him. I'm more than willing to take in a pot-bellied pig. I keep them in my house. They're part of the family, and we, like the pound, have lots of visitors. And they play with these animals, and they're very loved. It's also an open facility. Anybody can come by any time. And who loved Parker at the shelter, they could come and visit him at my farm. So I was waiting to find out what was going to happen with this, and last week I called Karen and I said, I really want to finalize the adoption of Cheyenne. She's always going to be special needs. We specialize in special needs horses on my farm. Let's do the adoption, and when I come down on Wednesday, if you don't mind, I can fill out the paperwork for Parker as well. So I was coming down, as a matter of fact, today when I found out yesterday that he had been removed. I was actually pretty upset, to say the least of it. Had the police department followed any protocol at all, any protocol, and this woman had filled out an adoption form or anything, I would have found out that there was somebody else interested. And Parker, I'd have been down there in 15 minutes flat. That's how long it takes me to get from my farm down there. I'd have filled out the paperwork, and he would have slept at my house last night inside in my kitchen with, Petunia Buttercup. And had lots of attention and love, and not be outside in a cold barn with 1 or 2 people around, and not the kind of attention and facility that he's used to. I think that I'm rather upset that I lost the opportunity to adopt him, and I think that the placement of this pig, if he cannot be kept at the pound, I think that it should be reconsidered. I think that having been first in line and been told by animal control a while back that I would have the ability to adopt him, I think that maybe we both fill out applications and put them side by side, and let's see who is better qualified to adopt this kid. And I do want to say, having worked with a lot of pounds as a journalist over the years, and as a rescuer, I have to say these two people do a stellar job. When I've needed them, they're there. We've had people there before. We've had huge dogs roaming in our neighborhood. I would call over and over again. Never got a response for the St. Bernards that tormented us for years. I call, boom, they're there. They answer the phone, they're on top of it. They do a really great job. And I have to say, those animals, I keep hens. Every animal they have, right down to the peacock. I have all of these animals at my rescue. There was no reason to move them. They did a great job with them. The facility was great. They were loved, they were cared for, and they were given a lot of attention.
Let me just ask, do you know whether these animals that have been transported to this farm have been adopted or just been transported?
I went there today. I was told yesterday that I could go see them. I could go make myself more comfortable to see where they were. I went there today with Kathleen Sherman and Leanne Russ because I didn't want to go by myself. I wanted witnesses. We got to the property. I knocked on the door. A woman came to the door. She came out. She was okay. We asked if we could see the pig specifically. She said no, and then she said, "All right, yes." She said, "I'm just really upset because I found NBC in my driveway yesterday." Good. And they were taking pictures and blah blah blah. So
excuse me, photographer person, sit down, thank you.
As I started to walk from her door down her sidewalk, she started talking about Cheyenne the horse. She then became agitated because Kathleen adopted her yesterday. And she said, that's it, I want you out of here, I'm calling the police said you're trespassing, blah, blah, blah. We had 4 cars that responded. Every cop in Woodbridge was in their driveway.
My question is, if these animals have not been adopted, then they're available to be adopted.
As far as I know, they're there.
Why are they there?
But she would not let us see them.
So my question is...
And they cannot technically be adopted from there. They have not been adopted.
Okay, so that means, I take it from what some people are saying here, they would like to adopt some of these animals.
And what gives you, Officer Thomas, the right to take them off the property in Woodbridge?
That's another issue, but as far as adopting, there are apparently people here tonight who would like to do that.
I talked to Richie Monaco today.
Adopted at that. And then they're taking...
I was told it's a done deal. It's done, nothing can happen now.
I talked to Richie Monaco today because Sergeant Thomas took a vacation day. I said to Richie, I have someone who will take the pig. She always would have taken the pig. Well, not recently. And he said, the pig is gone. Forget it.
That's what he told me.
It's over. It's done.
I was told the same thing.
And that's what I was told about every one of these.
I'm sorry, who told you that?
Richie Monaco. Officer Richie Monaco.
No, but I mean, this was after you were already at the house, at the farm?
No, this was this morning. He said,
He told me yesterday, within an hour of the animals being taken off the property. No, Officer Monaco as well. I said I'm interested in 2 of the chickens that I've been monitoring, that animal control was making sure that I was able to care for these animals properly, and he said, forget it, if you need to adopt chickens, we'll help you. It never occurred to me to call the police for either one of them to adopt a chicken or a pheasant or a pig or anything else. So I think...
So we have any other comments?
I think we have several issues that we're dealing with here. One was the animals being confiscated in this seizure, which appears to have been done without the ACO's knowledge, but I could be wrong on that. The other one is police authority and what they are and are not able to do. And I think there has to be some demarcation, if you will, as to what is acceptable behavior on the part of the PD with regard to their employees, which fall under their auspices at this point. Perhaps some of that behavior needs to be addressed as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's most important here.
My concern is that this could go farther. This could go with dogs and cats. It doesn't mean it's going to stop here. just for them just to walk in there and seize animals.
Right.
That's,
So do we have any more? Yes, ma'am?
Mr. Sheehy, my name is Mary Ehrler, E-H-R-L-E-R. I'm a former police officer here in Woodbridge. I'm a former commissioner of District Animal Control in the 90s. At that time, we dealt with domestic animals and cats, which we added cats in that time. Small animals, gerbils, hamsters. Bridget was on the board with me at the time. From what I understand, after the commission of 4 towns was disbanded, Woodbridge and Bethany, and I am a citizen of Bethany, are the only 2 towns that are now in district animal control.
Derby as well.
Oh, Derby, I'm sorry, Derby too. I do know that Ed Thomas is Karen's supervisor down there. It has been turned over to the police department to supervise, but they have got to stop micromanaging.
Yeah.
And let the district animal control officers do their job. There should be 1 meeting a month, and that's when police go in. Okay, what's happening? Blah blah blah. This is happening. This is happening. Let them do their jobs and let the police not micromanage every single day. As far as having farm animals, that should be restricted to a certain time limit. I personally have chickens at my house. I know that Karen had the chickens down there. I would not integrate my chickens with somebody else's chickens, but there are people that do like eggs. The roosters, that's another case. Not everybody wants roosters, nor do I have roosters. I don't want to intimidate my neighbors with it. But please stop the micromanaging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why isn't there a representative from the police? Excuse me, why isn't there either any Officer Stewart or any representation from the Woodbridge PD here this evening?
You'll have to ask them.
Isn't that required that somebody show up to give an account of numbers?
This is under public comments. This is not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, it was my understanding that perhaps they had to make an appearance once a month to give account as to animals intake, that sort of thing.
They account, the police commission, the police department is subject to the police commission.
Right.
It's a 5-member board. And so that's the appropriate commission to deal with these comments directly. But you're giving them to the Board of Selectmen, and we will share those with the Police Commission, and I'll get some input from the Board of Selectmen or how they think we should proceed. But the appropriate entity that oversees the operation of the police department is the Police Commission. And if part of their jurisdiction is also the District Animal Control.
And how qualified are they?
They're citizens just like all of us.
And when do they meet?
They meet once a month.
Yeah, when's the next one?
February, it's the first Wednesday in February.
Right.
Ed, in light of the outpouring and the comments this evening, do you think it might be appropriate to arrange a meeting between the Woodbridge PD and perhaps some residents or the officers or anybody else in the community to sort this out ASAP?
Sure, I think that's a good suggestion. And we can maybe do that with the Police Commission.
Like within the next week?
Well, I try to do it as soon as we can.
Well, I think the question is the status of the animals that are at the farm right now.
I don't, people are making these comments that wherever these animals were taken, that those people may not be competent or qualified. We don't know the answer to any of that.
Well, you're hearing it from us, though.
I understand that.
Okay. We're animal people.
Okay.
Have you been there?
I have.
Actually seen
He's the only person.
I was actually, I brought food there, and the owner told me to get the F off the property. I was shocked. I went there as a friendly neighbor to bring food.
What people say, because
But
Oh,
and he threw me off the property. I was just being a friendly, kind person to bring food to the pig and the chickens.
So one of the things that we can take away from this meeting is that there are a number of you who would like to adopt some of these animals. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
But that isn't the primary issue.
No,
It's the fact.
where they
There's another comment that's been made here that there should be a time limit
Yes.
on how long these animals are kept at the shelter, if you will.
It's very hard to do.
Yeah, no, but it's a comment that's been made. Does everybody more or less say that that's inappropriate?
No.
So the disagreement, okay.
How long does it take?
No, but I could understand the other side of that.
Yeah. Okay.
What about what Dr. Kim said about people's place? Has the place been vetted out? The vet's been there to check the property where the animals are?
I don't know that, yeah. I don't know.
That's what we need to find out, because if that's not, they should be immediately taken back.
The focus should be on them right now, and then you folks can clear that up. And,
Correct.
you know, we can all get together with equal information, and then we can, you know, negotiate and compromise about the whole thing. But I don't think anybody knows exactly where this la-la land is and what it's all about. I know what it's about, Tommy knows what it's about, but, you know, you're just taking our words for it. I think you've got to physically go there and see what's going on.
And I'd like you to come to my house and see what my house looks like and where, but the accommodations that I'd like to make for some of the animals, because it's a huge expense that I could not afford to adopt 20 animals. And I'm wondering if indeed these people are prepared. They may be very well-meaning. I'm sure they are. But it's a huge expense, in particular the pig, which I own a pig very similar, same age, and it's about $1,000 a year for the care and feeding of a pig. And I'm wondering if these people know what they're doing, because this is an animal that is 3 times more intelligent than the smartest dog, and it can live for 20 years with proper care. And Kathleen and I are both willing to make that commitment to this animal. And if we knew that it was going to be taken away, if it's going to be brought to a farm and these people are going to slaughter it, which they may be able to do, I don't know what the rules are. I would like to know, because we were there. There are no rules. So why people that were interested in these animals, and I admit that no, I didn't move quickly because I thought that we had time to make the correct decision, and perhaps it was too late, but I don't think it should be too late, because these people don't know what they're doing. The woman admitted that she didn't know what to feed the pig, and so how would she adopt an animal that she doesn't know what to feed it?
She said she didn't want it. She
Correct.
was approached.
And why would
She
Officer
didn't
Thomas
want
be
it.
so interested in the adoption of these animals?
Yeah.
It's peculiar. It's very peculiar.
So is there any other comments that we have of a specific nature other than what's been already mentioned? Yes, sir. Oh,
Yeah, I have
yes,
a
ma'am.
question.
Oh, excuse me.
She should be
You're next.
Thank you. My name is Barry Collins, and I'm from Bethany. And I've been associated with the District Control a lot in the past. I was one of the first volunteers with the original group called District Animal Control Volunteers, DACVO. And we brought this animal board, which only had, I don't know, but every town was represented. Orange was in it at that point. But we put that board on the map because they only met 4 times a year before we got interested. And the conditions at the shelter were deplorable, as far as we were concerned. And all of a sudden, after about a month of asking questions that they couldn't answer, they were meeting 12 times a year, which made quite a difference in terms of what actually went on down there. And we've had a variety of people involved down there. I'm extremely satisfied with Karen myself, because I had a personal incident with her last year when she came to my aid, and it was extremely helpful. So I have complete confidence in her judgment, and my main point is, why isn't her judgment the final one, outside of maybe some oversight financially? Other people, police officers, maybe individually, but I doubt it, they do not have her experience or her knowledge of the shelter or how things are done there, and so forth and so on, even with the best of intentions. And since she is a totally competent person and has a good reputation, and some of the past ones, I can tell you, they were a little bit marginal people, even though maybe their heart was in the right place. They didn't always know the things that should be done. But the visibility of this board now, not your board, but the Animal Control Board, is much more prominent than it used to be. And rightly so. People are concerned about animals, particularly those of us who live in more country-like settings where animals are important. And this includes farm animals. I didn't even realize until I read the story that we were now in a position to take some of these farm animals. And obviously you only take them if you have some kind of room or facility for them, or they know somebody who is competent to take care of them and willing to do so. And there are several people who have testified here tonight who could do so. But my main point is I'm shocked the way things were handled. It should not have been handled that way. I protest them as a Bethany resident and somebody who's been associated one way or another with the shelter since the late 1990s when Dackville first got going. And so that would be my final word to you, that these animals should be returned to the shelter. That I seriously doubt from what I'm hearing that they're getting the kind of care at this so-called place.
Right.
You couldn't possibly duplicate for the pig what they had, what he or she had at the shelter. And that's serious because a week or two of mismanagement could really set the animal back or even undermine its health seriously. And you've heard from a vet, so I'm not talking as a vet, I'm talking as a citizen, but one that's been involved with the shelter certainly for many years in the past. And I'm just sort of now re-catching up and really surprised that it's not being handled properly when we have a totally competent officer to make those decisions. And she was obviously not given the final word. So that's my friendly, to give her that kind of authority.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Paul Acampora, 32 Center Road. I think you guys know who I am.
Yes.
So just trying to really collect my thoughts on this and figure out how everything happened, and I walked in a little late, so I missed some of it. But a concern that I do have is I sat in on a zoning meeting a couple nights ago where they were talking about zoning regulations for animals, and starting with horses, then moving to other animals, livestock, right down to chickens, etc. And this is the double-edged sword, so watch out everyone, because everyone here is about animals, you want to keep them. Mary, I heard you say something in regards to roosters. Concern there is, yeah, roosters can be really tough. On the other hand, you can get some really nice roosters that are not aggressive.
Peter, I don't want to aggravate my neighbors. I have chickens.
Right, so you know, be careful of whether we're going to start to regulate these things or not, because you know there is a process, and I heard someone say the other night that you don't need roosters to get eggs, and that's true, you don't. Right. But you do need roosters to get other chickens. So if people are preserving chickens, and you know chickens don't last forever, so they will eventually die off, and you won't have any more chickens. So there's that question of how do we continue to keep chickens unless we're purchasing them from somewhere outside of our town. You know, it's just things to give it a little thought before we take a knee-jerk reaction to this and say, great, we're going to put in zoning regs to regulate down the animals. I've been in town for 40 some odd years, and you know, again, the reason why I have the animals was to continue on with what I was raised with, teach that to my kids, teach that to kids around us. I mean, we have people that stop at the house all the time just to come and visit the animals. Once we start taking all that away and get it out of the community, we're going to lose a whole nother piece of our community that, I mean, right now, how many kids do you see on the streets? There's not many anymore. They're tied up somewhere doing things that, you know, behind closed doors.
Are you the llama house?
I am.
Thank you.
And I heard them specifically the other night say regulate alpacas. So I'm concerned. Are they going to chase me out of town? Because that's eventually what will happen.
Forgive me, are they alpaca or?
They're alpacas, yeah.
Thank you.
You know, and I will say, yeah, Paul is sitting outside. He's come to our house before when, you know, someone in town who doesn't understand animals drives by and says, hey, there's an animal lying down, it must be sick. But that's what they do. You know, they lie down. And just because it's raining in the middle of a 80-degree sunny summer day, you don't have to put them inside. They're not domesticated animals. You know, we've put them out there to share them with the community, and I've gotten a lot more people coming and saying, hey, this is a great thing, than I've got negative comment. So take that for what it's worth. I think the people in the area do enjoy the animals. So again, double-edged sword, watch out with the regulation. We'll start chasing it all out. I heard some other people make similar comments. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to come up and speak, but it's about a totally different subject, and I don't want to interrupt the animal people.
Okay, all right.
I just want to add one more thing. I've been working with pigs for a long time, and I understand a lot about the nature of them. And they're incredibly emotional animals. They're incredibly intelligent. They're very easily wrecked. If you change their life, if you take them out of, especially when they've been handled as much as this pig has, if you take a pig that has been fawned over and loved and handled and pet as much as this one, and you put it in an environment, and I was there today, where it is now, I didn't even see it, but I know there are no people around these animals all day. There's just 1 or 2 people there. It will be detrimental to this pig. It can become angry, it can become aggressive. And the faster this, because it's not what it's accustomed to. It's like taking a dog out of a family, only on a higher emotional level. It needs to be, if it's going to be removed from there, it needs to be removed from there quickly before there's psychological and emotional damage done to it.
Tomorrow.
Well, and in this I can tell you, having rehabilitated pigs that have been in that kind of situation, it's a lot easier to not let them get there than it is to rehabilitate them once they've been there.
And he is the most gentle pig that you will ever meet.
Yeah, he's great.
He is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you raise them right, they're all like that. I've got one in my kitchen right now. Sounds like me too.
God bless you.
Only mine is 400.
Oh no.
Yes.
Wow. I would like to suggest that the interim solution is to get those animals back to the shelter as fast as you can get them there.
Right.
Then
Come on.
Then you've got lots of time to talk about the ifs, ands, and buts.
Yes.
I'll supply the vehicle to get him back.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
No, just get our babies back.
All right, okay. So, yes.
Are you going to take any action?
Well, I've heard all the comments here. I indicated we'll try to get a meeting of the police commission. I will try to meet with the police department, the chief or others.
When?
Shortly. And,
so you're going to meet with the chief shortly?
Yeah. And I'll review all these comments that were made and take a look at that, and then see what the police commission wants to do about this.
Are you going to, just because I'm writing this, are you going to ask them for an emergency meeting? Or a special
I'm going to
meeting?
try to get a meeting as soon as we can, yeah.
It'll have to be a special meeting then because they've already met.
Correct.
Is there anything else that we could do?
I think you made your positions pretty clear. There's a question about the competency of the place where these animals have been brought. There's a question as to why they were brought there. There is also an interest in people here adopting some of these animals. So that's another factor. I think there should be a look at the policy or this order that Cheryl referred to as to whether that ought to be reviewed, looked at, amended, or whatever. So that's something that the police commission would take up. So those are basic, I think, the basic gist of what's been said here. Quite obviously, I know you're very upset about this. We'll relay that message to the police.
Who has jurisdiction over the police?
As I said, the police commission.
Yeah, but who's over the police commissioner?
Well, there's nobody. I mean, the Board of Selectmen appoints the members of the police commission. They hire and fire the police officers. They have responsibility for oversight.
But they all answer to you, the Board of Selectmen, ultimately.
Then I'll be bringing that message in that sense, but they make the decisions at that level.
Right, but that's personnel. We're talking about getting the animals back to the shelter.
Well, that's going to have to go through them. It's going to have to go through that process.
They may not want to go back on what they have, the action.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to explore that. See what can happen. So, Yeah. Now, before we take up another topic under public comments, do any members of the Board of Selectmen have any comments?
I would just simply say I really applaud the passion and compassion that all of you feel for these animals. I am very curious as to exactly how all this happened. I don't know at this point whose responsibility is whose at this point, but as members of this community, I couldn't be prouder of all of you. It's really quite moving.
Thank you.
It's quite moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have too many questions to list, but I'm most concerned with the process, what paperwork exists with placing these.
What happened?
What happened. But I think the most important thing is potentially returning these animals immediately.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because all of that can be sorted out later.
That's right. Yes, you're right.
The animals.
Good thinking.
Only to say that that all of your input and certainly the press coverage has raised more questions, I guess, than there are answers. Certainly, your presence here tonight is a vital part of the process to try and find answers to those questions. Ed listed the questions, and we'll go forward from here. But again, thank you for participating in the process. I don't believe it was anyone's intention to alienate such a large vocal segment of the community, and so thank you for participating.
When you say the community, don't forget that it includes Bethany and Derby too.
Bethany's just north of here, isn't it? Yes, thank you for being here.
Okay, any other comments on that topic? Thank you all for coming, and we'll follow up on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got your message.
I was so upset. And then somebody cut me off, and I didn't know what I said. So good to see you. Yes. That's my
Floor is yours. Yep.
Okay, my name is this supposed to be? Is this on? Yes.
Yes.
My name is Marilyn Klatskin. I live at 21 Bond Road. And before I say what I came here to say, I'd like to say that I am very impressed, Ed, with your and what other people's decision to put a full-time policeman at Beecher School. I think that's awesome. I'm a teacher somewhere else, and none of us feel particularly safe these days, and I'm just so happy that Woodbridge is safe. That's great news. Okay, what I came here to say. Lived in Woodbridge for 33 years. Lived in Woodbridge for 33 years, and I've never been to the Board of Selectmen. Been to other boards, this is my first time. And the reason I came here is because some of us in town have such a severe problem, it's a quality of life problem, that I felt it was important for you, Board of Selectmen, to hear about it. It's a quality of life problem that has been assigned to us by living near the JCC. The problem is traffic on the Bond Road, Amity Road side. On the Shady Lane side, It's a devastating quality of life issue that they have with kids running through, noise, loudspeakers. I mean, it is unbelievable, and my heart goes out to the people on Shady Lane. I know it's a zoning issue, but I felt it was very important for you people to hear about it. Ed, I read an editorial that you wrote in some local paper, and you said, and I quote, "The JCC is a good neighbor. With all due respect..."
I think I said it was a good citizen, but okay.
Okay, with all due respect, they are people in town that let people take showers there during Sandy. Of course, last year during Irene, they charged people to take showers there. But I would be very happy to sit down with you at any time and tell you all the reasons they are not a good neighbor, that don't involve traffic and don't involve the mess they've made of Shady Lane. They involve things, give them an inch and they try to take a mile, things that have been going on since the day that place opened. So they are not a good neighbor. Lived in town, as I said, 33 years, and have had we've had one bad neighbor, and that's the JCC. And nobody there gives a damn. Frankly, I gave up trying to talk to them years ago because nobody there gives a damn about their impact on any neighborhood. Okay, so now they're up for zoning because they want to add Ezra Academy, which has about 105 extra students up above and beyond the 40 they added this year when they took a Hebrew high school in, and now they want to, they say 105, but I don't believe them. But anyway, I mean, I don't believe the JCC. The JCC will just keep going, just like they have since they've been in existence. We, the neighbors of Bond Road, have gotten a legal opinion on something that the zoning board is doing. And that legal opinion is, and this is one of my main reasons for coming here. The last time they voted, last summer, when they wanted to add 40 high school students, most of the zoning board members who are members of the JCC recused themselves. However, the chairman of the zoning board, Jeff Kaufman, who is a member of the JCC, arrogantly and flagrantly would not recuse himself. That is a conflict of interest. The legal opinion we got was that if that JCC or anything they do is ever taken to court, or the zoning board, and you're a lawyer so you can correct me if I'm wrong, that his refusing to recuse himself is a total conflict of interest. And it would definitely impact any decision that was to come out of that. So my query to you is to please, as a selectman in this town, to please make sure that if people are on the board of the JCC or members of the JCC, they are not allowed to vote on zoning issues regarding the JCC, as it's a conflict of interest. So that's one of my main reasons. It seems like everyone in town is intimidated and or afraid of the JCC. I don't know why. I mean, they're just people. We're people, but somehow they have some kind of a mystical power over this town that I don't understand. I really don't, and I don't let it affect me, and I'm sad that it affects the town that way, because it really does. So I'm hoping I can count on your help. Jerry's not here as the town council, but you're a lawyer. Please don't let them vote on the JCC issues. And please don't call them a good neighbor, at least where I can read it.
I think it's a good citizen, but whatever, yeah.
But a good citizen gets along with their neighbors. A good citizen cares about their neighbors. A good citizen doesn't flagrantly and intentionally and deliberately refuse to consider the impact they have on people surrounding them. At this week's zoning board, they expected the vote on Ezra to take place in next month, but there is a traffic study that is going to be looked at, and so it probably won't get voted on until March. So that's as far as I heard the other night. Thank you.
Okay.
What do you, as an attorney, I mean, can you say what you think about a conflict of interest?
Well, yeah, I have to explore all the ramifications of that and exactly what are they voting on, and that's a matter that.
Well, when they voted to add a high school to the JCC, a couple of their members, a couple of people on the board said, "I can't vote on this. I am a member of the JCC." And Jeff Kaufman said, "I'm a member of the JCC, but I'm going to vote on this." And I raised my hand and I said, "Could you please recuse yourself? That's a conflict of interest." He said, "No, I'm going to vote on this." It was arrogant. Thank you.
Any other members of the public who have any comments? Okay, we have our guest here who was on the agenda earlier, but it was at another meeting, Dr. Stella, so we welcome you. And
well, good evening, everyone. I'm sure you've had a long night, but I wanted to keep my word. I said I would come back from the workshop and give you an update. One of the crucial things, one of the main goals of a school system, any good school system, is to provide a calm, nurturing, orderly learning environment for children and for everyone within the building. And as you know, the tragic events in Newtown have caused school systems across the country, including Beecher Road School, to step back and just view measures that are necessary to keep everyone safe and secure at school. And so we've done exactly that in collaboration with our safety committee, the police department, fire department, town, board of education, and we have simultaneously began the process of ongoing communication with parents. Now, one of the key questions that came up was, what existing safety school management system do we have already in place? Is there one? And it's a definite yes. I'm proud to say that our safety committee, which is a very representative one, has been in operation for several years and has produced in collaboration with the police and fire department and state officials, an emergency safety plan that brings in all kinds of protocols, from shutdowns to lockdowns to shelter in place, fire drills, lost child, bomb scares, just about anything that you could think of that could possibly affect a school. So we've taken a good look at that. And then the next question is, what measures have we instituted since December 14th? Well, that weekend, that evening and that weekend, you could be assured that our whole administrative staff and team were in operation over the entire weekend, putting together different kinds of communications, trying to study whatever information we had and trying to prepare for the week. The first selectman, give him a lot of credit, called together police chief, deputy, myself that Monday morning, first thing in the morning, and we sat to discuss how we could collaborate even closer. And one of the first things I suggested was that we have a wonderful DARE officer at the school, Officer Lynch. I call him a community officer because over the years he's brought great value the past 3 years to the school in the way he has engaged the community to have such a positive impact not only within the school but outside the school as well. And I asked if he could be assigned to the school, and the answer was a yes, and that was from the first selectman and the police chief and the deputy, and with the cooperation of the board and so on. So that was a major step in the right direction. So he's a community officer at the school now, but he's a first responder right on site. I think it brought that a lot of comfort to our parents, our families, our children, and so on, to have him there. And again, his manner is so friendly and so interactive and so on. It didn't seem like anything strange because he's been part of us for the past few years. We also, as I mentioned, we examined, reviewed all safety plans, protocols, made any adjustments as necessary, again in close cooperation with the police department. Our new interim fire marshals visited us over the vacation break, and they added some input too. A new system for entrance into the school has been initiated, And again, we've had, from what I see, complete cooperation from the parent community, understanding our situation, and on the advice of the police department and taking a good look. We suspended the swipe system, and we adopted what our police officials, our state officials, and national experts in safety are saying, to have certain protocols for entrance into the building, and to be sure we know who's coming into the building and have systems in place. And again, we've got nothing but wonderful cooperation with that. We have cameras in the office to make it very easy to see who's coming in. So we're a community school, and we never want to lose that aspect. It's a very important part of our philosophy. So we don't want to keep parents out that belong there, or visitors or programs at the school and so on, but we want to do it in a safe way. And again, we've gotten nothing but cooperation. Our doors have been secured throughout the building, and that includes into the extended day program. Again, Beecher Road School has become a community school, and we're used to having lots of people. And so we did tighten up, and again, with everyone's help. With the extended day, we have someone at the door is locked. We had a situation in the past where people would come in. Some people, even though the door was locked, would put something to hold the door open, make it easier or whatever. So now that's secure. And we have Officer Lynch and custodial staff and everyone on alert. He does perimeter exercises around the building. We have lots of entrances and so on, so he's constantly monitoring that. We're collaborating with the Bethany Elementary School, the Amity School District, sharing practices and so on. I'm meeting with the superintendents tomorrow. Officer Lynch is meeting with the state trooper from Bethany and visiting the middle school, and we'll be visiting Amity High School, so we're sharing lots of ideas. We're establishing direct radio connections between the Woodbridge Police Department and trying to get that kind of hookup so an instant communication is there. Other steps are confidential that should be confidential, and the school administrators, counselors are circulating always to see that things were on schedule. The recreation department is a partner of ours, and I give them a lot of credit. They step forward. We're working hand in hand. We have, again, it's a community building, so we always say it's a building that never sleeps. So the south end of the building too measures have been taken to make it more secure without keeping legitimate people out. And there are a number of steps that we have in place these are the near-term immediate steps that we've taken, and we have other things that we're looking forward to putting into place. This past Monday, there was a statewide symposium on security, and was sponsored by the State Association of Superintendents and School Boards, and with the full support of the state. It brought in experts from across the country, and the day was a very, very profitable day, valuable day. There was a whole menu of new ideas, insights, and so on. But the main message too is that every district is different. Things have to be adopted. There's no rule that fits everything for every school system. And an important thing too is we talk about the physical safety of children. The other aspect of safety is the social emotional development of children, and the type of culture that you have in the school that anticipates and is proactive with any problems that could arise from a school community. So we haven't forgotten that. And on January 29th, we'll have the first, what we call the Superintendent's Parents Academy session, first of the new year. And it'll be focused, it's part one, there'll be a two-part series. The first part is focused on school safety and security, rules, routines, procedures that keep the operation of a school going. And part two will be on what are we doing with the social emotional development of children and establishing that nurturing culture that can identify problems in advance, whether they be within the school or community and so on. But this gives me the opportunity. I did want to come back. I thought I really owed it to the Board of Selectmen and the town to thank you for the support that you have and are giving the school system. It's very, very important. I know I speak on behalf of the Board of Education too, but you've been right alongside of us and taking some immediate steps. We've gotten off to a very good start in the new year. There's a calm in the school, there's a normalcy, and that's we have our consultant, Dr. Marins from the Yale Child Study Center, who has reviewed all of our actions from the social emotional point of view, and has affirmed and encouraged us and given us advice in different things. But you see a lot of, I'll use the term stand-up teaching and student engagement going on. Programs are going on as usual, and yet our school's counseling service is always alert to whether or not there are individual problems with any of our children and so on. Some of our children on the outside have gotten exposure to what's happening. Others have been kind of sheltered a bit from it, so it's the whole kind of thing. But I wanted to come back and thank you personally and to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you for all your efforts, and I shared your correspondence with the Beecher Road School community, with the Board of the Selectmen, as you sent those emails out. And there's one thing that I guess makes this somewhat closer to Woodbridge, is that you told me that the acting principal last year has returned, who's from Newtown, I guess, or was in the Newtown school system, has returned as now the acting principal of Sandy Hook School.
Yes, a wonderful woman, Donna Paget, served with us for 1 year. She came out of retirement to serve with us. She retired a few years ago. She was the principal of Sandy Hook. So she has, again, returned to the school because the children know her, the teachers know her, and so we're very proud of her. We're thankful for her contributions to the Woodbridge system, because she did quietly behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know what she did, but she did a lot to help us to prepare for our new principalship and then on-school principalship. But thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, okay. Any questions?
Dr. Stella?
Yes.
The South gets a lot fewer people probably visiting it, but the South has a vestibule that you enter into, and the North is different. Have I don't know, any of the advice that's been given so far, some of these protocols that are coming out, I don't know, is that any kind of recommendation so far, or is that seem to be important?
Yes, that's an important area. Now, I'm talking about the school day extended to extended day, because again, rec takes over in the evening and takes over on the weekends. So what I could tell you, during the school day and extended day, that door is locked. There is no swipe system. There is rec is cooperating 100%. They have someone at the desk, so when someone enters during that time, then they have to review who's coming in for what purposes. They have radio, and they would swipe the card for the person coming in. We also are making sure that the door to the South Assembly is locked at all times, and we're trying to keep an eye on that because it's a very active building.
What I'm wondering is North, is it a weakness in North not having like a vestibule that you enter into?
I'm sorry, say that again?
An entry within an entry in the North. Is it a weakness in the North not having, like, you'd enter into a vestibule?
But there is a vestibule.
There is a vestibule, but I see what you're saying. Not necessarily, because well, again, you know what, we're going to have experts look at it too.
Right.
But what I could tell you right now is that we have cameras who could see. Nobody can get in unless we buzz them in. The secretarial staff and the administrators there are on high alert, and they work as a very effective team. They know who's coming in. They have a protocol for asking questions and so on, and they're taking a good look and buzzing in. So that fits what the advice is, the general advice is as far as that goes. What I thought you were going to say is that it might be more of a challenge in the South, because that was almost, at certain times of the day it was a wide open door, because we had people coming in for rec and so on. So initially our stronger security point was the North with that. And again, with our community, I don't want to go into too much detail, but we have a communication system that we have a first responder, besides a community officer, we have a first responder right on site. And Officer Lynch has wonderful training on the police force. He's been on it for 12 years, but he was also an Army paratrooper and has all kinds of training that could benefit us. So, from that point of view.
I just had two quick questions.
Yes.
Was the symposium that you mentioned by the state, was that scheduled in response to Newtown, or was that
Yes.
something that had already been?
No, it was a response, and it was called, and it was just an overwhelming attendance there.
Did you get the sense that that's something that's going to be ongoing with the state effort?
Yes, I think so. And you have a number of the associations very interested in this. This symposium was sponsored by the Association of Superintendents and the Boards of Education, but it had the full support of the State Department, and the Secretary of Education for the United States, Arnie Duncan. He sent a top representative, but he spoke to the whole group through a video, particularly addressing the situation in Newtown.
And my second question is really more about, I don't know if you can answer, but how are the faculty and staff doing?
We have a wonderful faculty and staff. I'm glad you mentioned that. It gives me an opportunity to praise them, because one of the most important things, and this is with the advice of Dr. Marins and our own experience, one of the most important things we could have done that Monday, and it was a difficult thing, was to establish a normalcy for children and a calm emotional setting, because children do not think the same way that adults do, interpret things differently. So now, again, we're all individuals. Each one of us responds differently as far as our emotional levels to things. But I can tell you, when the staff walked into the classroom, they were everyone, with no exception, was very, very professional. We had our guidance and counseling staff available, and we were quietly just assessing the situation. With that kind of thing, you watch children and you watch their reaction. You're able to spot problems if there are problems. And we met with staff members before school and after school. So that was a crucial time, the first day and the first week. But again, normalcy is extremely important. And you know, you can't deny a reality that's happened. But at the same time, you don't want to give up. You have to balance security with the importance of having a philosophy and a type of culture at the school that's important for education too at the same time.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Dr. Stella.
Okay, we have, I've distributed a parent update that focuses on security. It's for the citizens of Woodbridge. It's on our website, and we will keep in close touch with our Beecher Road School community. And what we're trying to do too is issue whatever releases we can to the press so that citizens could see what's happening too. Okay, and thanks again for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that now gets us to the administrative officer's report.
Yes, sir. Got a good report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
I'm going to make this short.
Go ahead. Yep.
Bob Klatskin, 21 Bond Road. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Stella, the board of Education for taking all these measures for the safety, welfare, emotional, and physical of our children and staff in the schools. Thank you very much. The reason I'm here is just to make mention of the fact that Amity Road and Litchfield Turnpike traffic in the morning during rush hour is horrendous. Being on Bond Road, it can take me 20 minutes, 25 minutes to get to the Parkway entrance. With the proposed addition of Ezra Academy at the Jewish Center, adding approximately another 100 cars during rush hour both ways, the traffic is going to be much more distressful. I don't know what your board can do as far as any influence to the board, the zoning board, but I implore you to think very carefully and hopefully be able to influence the board to take a very serious look at the traffic. Although Ezra only has about 105 students now, because of the economy and whatever, I suspect that as time goes on and things get a little looser, the enrollment will then again rise again to where it was in past years, making the traffic that much more difficult to deal with during the rush hours. And once again, I implore you to take anything you can do to influence the zoning board to take a very serious look at this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joe?
Yes, sir. Report on gas, natural gas. As you know from previous reports, natural gas has been flowing for 2 or 3 months at Amity and, of course, locations at Assumption Parish and directly there. I'm pleased to let you know that there's now gas flowing at Ezra Academy and the Temple at 75 Bremen. There's natural gas flowing at Beecher School, North Branch. And this week, possibly as soon as Friday or early next week, we will have natural gas flowing in the library, on our campus, in the center building with the big burner to the front of the older building, and for Town Hall. So hopefully within the next week or two, we're going to be pretty much up to speed. We have to wait until springtime to do the police department because they only have one small boiler. And this has to be done in warm weather in that case. Okay. And that's it.
Okay. Greg?
On Monday, the TPZ met, and one of the things they talked about were the Ezra Academy application, special permit to relocate education facility known as Ezra Academy to JCC. Park and Rec Commission presented regarding that commission's draft plan for the town plan. They discussed the town plan, and in their budget, they're going to be requesting, just so we get a heads up, they're going to be requesting about $50,000 for 2 years because they would like a consultant to help them with coming up with modifications to the town plan. So that's going to be something they're asking for.
Greg, can I interrupt? That's from the Recreation Commission or
no,
from TPZ?
TPZ. So TPZ, you know, in doing the, is it every 10 years or 15?
Every 10.
Every 10 years. So they, I guess, are planning on putting that into their budget. So we'll see that. There's a meeting on, I think, February 11th, which there's a head planner, the full-time planner for the town of Hamden, I think her name is Leslie Crean. She is going to be having a public meeting, a meeting in our cafes for the public, and to help us, give us ideas, the public as well as TPZ members, on developing the plan. TPZ continues to work on the firearms sales regulation. They're working on that, and that's it for TPZ. There's a inland wetlands meeting next week on the 16th. So the topic of the firehouse patio could come up then, but they are they're still waiting. Inland wetlands is still waiting on a biology report, which they may or may not have by then. So, but that'll be on the topic. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay,
The Recreation Commission has not met since the last time this board met. So instead, I'll piggyback on some of what Joe said. I was eavesdropping on the governor earlier today when he delivered his State of the State address, and he mentioned Woodbridge by name in his State of the State address, and held it up as an example of what his administration would like to do in terms of providing energy alternatives statewide. And as you remember, he and Commissioner Esty were at Amity High School. So Woodbridge and Amity were mentioned. It wasn't prime time, but it was noontime today.
At least we're mentioned, right?
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
Favorably.
And it was spelled correctly. I had a copy of his remarks before he delivered. But I would like to, not that I would presume to add to what Dr. Stella said, but I would like to report on the Board of Education meeting, which was Monday night the 17th, right after the horror in Newtown, Friday the 14th. By that time, Ed, you and Chief Marcucci and Dr. Stella had arranged for the full-time police presence on campus, which was, I think, a terrific instant response to everyone's concerns. During that meeting, I sat next to a faculty member who is the WEA liaison, I guess, to the Board of Education. And the relief in her face and in her comments was tangible, knowing that there would be this full-time police presence going forward. And so I wanted to comment on that. Again, I wouldn't presume to improve on Dr. Stella's report, except to say that I think that and the revised entry policy in terms of a visual confirmation now and granting personal access, you might say, I think those are the two key steps, the two best first steps. And I know the Woodbridge Board of Education will be looking at this going forward, and I think Dr. Stella is right that at the state level, this matter will be front and center again. It was part of the governor's remarks today. What Dr. Stella didn't mention, because I guess it was late and because he was busy with other updates, but the Board of Education on the 17th adopted a proposed operating budget for FY14, and we all will hear more about that. Those hearings are 24, 29, and 31, I guess. I don't know which night the Board of Ed will be presenting, but
31st.
But the unanimous vote of the Board of Education that night was for an increase of something less than 0.75%. I believe it was 0.73%, a very modest budget proposal for FY14, and so I want to share that with everyone and just comment that that figure includes the first year of the next contract with the faculty, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's a very positive step by the Board of Education.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
The Library Commission meets next week, so I will report at our next meeting.
Good. Okay. Anything else to take up? If not, just to remind you that we are meeting on the 23rd, the joint meeting on the Future Road School Building Project. So we'll look forward to seeing you then, and I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.